Hi, I'm Arthur Moats, number 55 of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Former Mizzou Tiger Marcus Golden.
This is former Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver J.J. Bird, and you're watching the Outsider Sports Show.
The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at it.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Outsider Sports Show. Clint, Switzer, Noah Gronniger, back from a whirlwind playoff run with these Kansas City Chiefs, back from Boston, back from the clam chowder, back from the haba. We're back to our own normal Midwest lives, Noah. The playoffs are over for us, but it was a heck of a ride.
It was. Like you said, we're back to the normal lives. The playoffs are going on, and we are not involved. The Kansas City Chiefs are not involved. They did win their first playoff game in 22 years down in Houston against the Texans. We were there. Atmosphere not great, stadium not great, but we got that win, 30-0, huge shutout. Lots to cheer about in that game. Always up on our feet. Niall Davis returning that kickoff to start things off. Such a great atmosphere in that stadium. At the end of the game, the Chiefs have won. The entire lower level is filled with Chiefs fans on the Chiefs sideline doing the tomahawk chop. Andy Reid does it. Alex Smith gives a fist pump. Albert Wilson bowing down to the fans for being there. And then it's off to Boston. Great atmosphere. Love the fans. Love the tailgating. They gave us a little stuff out there.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. But we won them over. We, with our football knowledge, telling them, well, we're a little worried of Julian Edelman. We're not homers. We're not from Boston. Chiefs fans from Boston, maybe from Maine coming over.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
No,
like
we're
that.
from Kansas City, born and raised. They respected that we came out for that game. Unfortunately, things went awry after kickoff.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really poor defensive game plan on the Chiefs' part. We knew the weapons that the Patriots had to implement in this game. Edelman came back, and really there was just no answer for him. And Tom Brady, who gets rid of the ball in under 2 seconds, the Chiefs were not able to do much blitzing. They also didn't play much bump and run defensively. Also, didn't move any corners, didn't move our best corners out to cover their best players. All in all, poor defensive game plan, and you really felt like you were throwing rocks at a man that had a machine gun, basically, in that game.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they started to go bump and run, but late in the second half, it was too late. The game was out of hand by that time. I mean, we were down 2 scores. They start playing more bump and run. We start getting some stops, but, I mean, it was just too little, too late. Like you said, not moving our corners, having Peters and Sean Smith sometimes on Brandon LaFell and Danny Amendola. I mean, with Edelman and Gronk out there facing Barry and Branch and Parker. I mean, that's just no matchup. I mean, especially they're not doing bump and run. Edelman ran right by any safety, Branch or Parker all day long. Gronk singled up on Barry, gave him a third grader juke, and Barry goes flying, flopping on the field, and Gronk's wide open for a touchdown. So it was just kind of ugly out there on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, we want to thank you guys that did join us last week as we broadcast live from Gillette Stadium before the playoff game. It was an unbelievable experience. We had Patriot fans coming up, yelling all sorts of things.
The voice of the New England Patriots, Bob Sochi.
He was able to join us, and you know, those fans, they warmed up to us. Noah, they showed their appreciation by bringing us alcohol, and we're trying to do a broadcast, trying to keep it very professional, and these people are just throwing out, and you know what? You get caught up in the moment, you get caught up in the 10th row ticket that we just got, before the game, and it was a really good experience. You had Scotty McCreery singing the national anthem. I was overcome. I had tears rolling down my cheeks as the national anthem was played, and the music and the pyro going off as the Patriots take the field, and I really thought the Chiefs had a chance to win that game, and for me as a fan, it was a wonderful experience. Certainly disappointed in the performance, but the Patriots are the better team right now when they have those weapons healthy. Edelman, Gronk, that makes all the difference in the world. Now they lose some key defensive players perhaps for this game this weekend. They will take on the Denver Broncos, a team that I can't believe is in the AFC Championship game. They got a battered Steelers team into Mile High last week, able to knock them off. Here we go again, Patriots, Broncos, Brady, Manning. This is kind of what happens in the AFC. I like Brady. I like the way he's playing right now. I like the Patriots to win this game. I think the Broncos are going to have trouble covering these weapons, as the Chiefs did, especially without their second-best corner, Chris Harris.
Yes, Chris Harris said he was finished that Steelers game playing with pretty much one arm out there. And Gerard Mayo, you mentioned for the Patriots having some defensive injuries. Gerard Mayo is going to be out with a shoulder injury. That does hamper the Patriots, but not enough. I mean, Manning is just a shell of himself. I mean, the 4 neck surgeries, it's going to be cold. I mean, he's not going to have the nerve feeling in his fingertips, and they just don't have much of a running game. They're dropping footballs when Manning does put it on target. I mean, this defense without Chris Harris, they're not going to be able to cover Gronk and Edelman with just Aqib Talib. TJ Ward is more of a run-fit guy, not really a cover safety. So I think it's going to be quite a long day for the Denver Broncos now that Edelman's back and Gronk is healthy. There was some scare about his knee. He was in the hospital the week before the Chiefs game, but he's fine. He looked great out there. So I definitely have the Patriots winning that game.
Well, you could see that Tom Brady advancing to his 7th Super Bowl, which is unbelievable, the Brady-Belichick era. You can't say enough. I think it's almost so great that it's now become underrated because you just expect it. And here they are again. It's unreal, and a huge credit to them. And we're going to be talking more about the NFC matchup. But, guys, we're going to switch gears a little bit because our very special guest on this show, someone that means a lot to me as a kid growing up, someone that means a lot to the sport of boxing, and that is Mr. Virgil Hill, the former light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion of the world, is going to join us now on this very show, talking boxing, talking his career, talking being the silver medalist in the '84 Olympics, fighting Roy Jones Jr., fighting Thomas Hitman Hearns. It's all going to be right here. Can't wait to talk to Virgil.
Yeah, and fighting into his 50s. I mean, as Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins, the executioner, have done. We'll
Rocky Balboa.
Rocky Balboa, of course. I can't forget him.
George Foreman.
Yes, and just talk about boxing and how maybe it can come back, or what can make it come back. Maybe his son that's in boxing and that's coming up can bring some life back to boxing, how it's just MMA, and I feel like boxing it needs to come back and face MMA and kind of fight for supremacy there.
And as a kid growing up in Clinton, Missouri, you always heard about Virgil Hill. Of course, his parents lived just a couple of blocks from me, and Virgil, I believe, was actually born in Clinton. He was billed as from Bismarck, South Dakota, which is where kind of he made his home.
Not from parts unknown.
Not parts unknown. This is not pro wrestling.
You mentioned cruiserweight, and I get excited.
I get excited. I'm going to share a memory I had of Virgil, and when he came to Clinton and signed autographs, signed my boxing glove as a kid. I'm going to kind of share that memory and kind of some more hilarity that ensued at that autograph signing. And just talk about his career, talk about boxing. This is our second guest from the world of boxing. It's good to enter the prize ring, Noah, because we are not. They could accuse us of being one-trick ponies out there. Some of the naysayers do. They say you guys only know your football. That's it. Well, guess what? We're going into the world of boxing, and I'm more excited to be there than ever. I don't have to do any of the boxing, thank God. But other than that, we can sure talk about it. It's going to be great. Growing up as a kid, loving boxing. A lot because of the Rocky movies, a lot because of Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, the video game, all that stuff. Boxing was huge in the 80s and up through the early 90s until Mike Tyson really went to prison, came back, had the deals with Holyfield, the biting of the ear. It was kind of tailed off since then. So cannot wait to talk to Virgil about that. And really, like you said, the state of boxing versus MMA, people gravitating towards the mixed martial arts now more. UFC is huge. Ronda Rousey, everyone knows who that is. And boxing doesn't really have much of an identity now, especially that Floyd Mayweather has retired. Manny Pacquiao, that fight, Mayweather-Pacquiao was a bust in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And will people ever come back to boxing after that?
It's going to be tough, especially after that. Like you mentioned, Mayweather and Pacquiao, and how that fight should have taken place many years before that, and when they were both in their primes, and it could have been a huge fight and brought a lot of new fans to boxing, and really raised the state and the eyes on boxing.
Yeah,
and brought a lot of new fans. But the fight, when it happened, I mean, Pacquiao was a shell of himself. Mayweather dominated the fight. Everybody bought it, hoping that Floyd would lose. Loving Manny, rooting for Manny, and Manny just gets dominated, and they're just, why did I buy this? Why am I watching boxing? This is horrible. I'm never watching the sport again. And it really did a lot of damage for the sport of boxing.
I think you're right, and it's going to be interesting to talk about all that and much more. And we're going to be talking more about this Chiefs season, more about the playoffs, more about the NFC Championship game after we welcome our guest at this time. And he is the former cruiserweight and light heavyweight champion of the world. In 2013, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Our guest at this time is Mr. Virgil Quicksilver Hill. Virgil, welcome to the show. How's everything going in your world, my man?
Good. Not too bad. Out in Southern California now instead of North Dakota.
Well, that's a good start, I'd say. That's a great start.
It's a little warmer.
A little warmer, absolutely. I was just out there a couple weeks ago myself, took in the Rose Bowl, checking it out, man, and we had my buddy Cliff out there. He said, we were talking boxing, and I go, man, I got one for you from that era, and I talking about Virgil Hill, and he goes, I know Virgil. And he's like, I'll tell him that you said hi. So, yeah, it's so cool, that small world, man, and not only that, but yeah, and you're from...
It is awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool, and you're not only that, but you have ties to my hometown of Clinton, Missouri. I believe you might have even been born there. That's crazy, too.
Yep, born there, but I was raised in North Dakota. My whole family, well, 5 of us. My father was from North Dakota, and my mother's from Missouri.
Absolutely. I remember your parents lived just right up the street. I remember as a kid driving by and telling my mom and dad, hey, can we stop and knock on the door and see if Virgil's home? Like, such a cool memories, man. Great memories back then. Your career is such a decorated career. And it all started for you in the Olympics. Yeah, that silver medal in the '84 Olympics, man. Before we get into that, just kind of talk about how you got into fighting and then what led you to the Olympics.
Well, I saw boxing on TV. We lived in a farm in Reynolds, North Dakota, and I saw Golden Glove boxing on TV. And that was back in the day when, the championships were fought in Chicago, and they wore golden gloves in the finals. And I said, Dad, if we ever moved to a city, and now a city to me is, like Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Sure.
45,000 people. Moved to Grand Forks, and I came home from work one day and asked if I still wanted to box. I said yes, and took me down to the local boxing gym.
That's awesome, and you obviously your career begins and you wind up on that Olympic team in 1984, and obviously had to be disappointing. You won the silver medal, that lost that fight, obviously controversial fashion. People still talk about that. I mean, what was that like for you, just competing on that Olympic team and then kind of the disappointment of not winning the gold?
Well, I mean, I was very proud, to be able to represent my country in the Olympics. Naturally, I'm a country boy. I come from North Dakota. The population of North Dakota at that time was 600,000 people, so it definitely wasn't a boxing hotbed for sure. And but everything worked out, man. I was able to get on the Olympic boxing team, even though my fight was controversial and stuff like that. That was the year we had probably the most celebrated Olympic team ever. We had 10 gold medals, 9 gold medals, 1 silver, 1 bronze, and then Robert Shannon didn't medal. So it was a good Olympic team to be on. Absolutely,
and of course your career. I mean, you started off before you won your the WBA light heavyweight championship against Leslie Stewart in 1987. You're 19-0. You're 18-0 going into that fight. You win that fight in Atlantic City, and shortly after that, you did an autograph signing actually in Clinton, Missouri. And as a child, I was apparently placed in front of you. My dad told me to tell you that you had kicked Leslie Stewart's ass. I believe you knocked him out of the ring, and you signed my boxing glove. That's a huge moment. I actually have a picture of that up right now. It's on the YouTube video that'll be showing during the interview. But so that happened right after you won that title. I mean, talk about what it was like going to New Jersey, winning that title, Atlantic City. I mean, that's a big stage against Leslie Stewart from Trinidad. What was that like for you, winning your first world title?
Well, it was awesome because I was a 6-1 underdog to Leslie Stewart. Leslie Stewart had just beaten Marvin Johnson for the light heavyweight championship, and going into that, I was a 6-1 underdog. But what people didn't realize is I had fought 10 times that year, the year before. So that's roughly 1 fight a month, so I was in fight ready. And it was a big stage. I mean, New Jersey, definitely different than any place I've ever been at that time. And I remember getting in the ring, and then he came to the ring, and he was bone dry, like he didn't warm up. And when they got in the ring, he was laughing at me and stuff like that. So kind of inspired me a little bit, and we ended up on the good side of a really nice win.
Well, it was unbelievable, and especially growing up as a huge boxing fan. Honestly, as a kid, the Rocky movies get you started. Mike Tyson was coming up in that era, and then someone from that hailed from my hometown of Clint, the whole town kind of got behind you and watching. A lot of family members of yours still live there to this day.
Yep.
And so that was amazing. That fight, I still remember it like as a real little kid. It's a memory I have. And you didn't lose a fight. You carried that title up for several years, and honestly, when you look back to that era of the 80s, late 80s, has there ever been an era, non-heavyweight era, that was as good as that? I mean, you had yourself, Thomas Hitman Hearns, who you wound up losing the title to, but you had Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, the light heavy. I mean, just an unbelievable era. Will that ever be topped?
Yeah, it was a good era. It was a good time for boxing. the amateurs, development of boxing was fantastic. And then, once they changed the rules in the amateurs and stuff, things just kind of went downhill, from there. But it was a wonderful era. I mean, I had just about half of my Olympic team ended up winning world titles. So it was we had a really good crew, and it was just a good time to be in boxing.
Well, we got to go back to 1991, your face-off against Thomas Hitman Hearns. What were your feelings going into that fight? It ended up being your first loss. What were people telling you? What did you feel about going into that fight with the Hitman?
Oh, extremely confident. I mean, I would never take a fight that I didn't think I couldn't win. And we were confident. I was suffering a couple little injuries and stuff like that, but I thought I could get over them and still do enough to win the fight. But not to take anything away from Tommy, it was a close fight, and he's a legend, and I was a champion, and I think the nod should go to the legend if it's a close fight, and he got the nod. And I lost, and I went to Australia, regrouped, trained with Johnny Lewis and Jeff Finnick, who was at the time getting ready to fight Azuma Nelson for the second time, and reestablished myself and came back and won the title again.
What about later in your career and a lot of fighters' careers? We've seen them fight into their late 40s, even early 50s. I mean, you've got Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones Jr., George Foreman, and you, Virgil Hill. Can you just talk about what goes through a fighter's mind getting in the ring at that age?
Well, I think it personally that it's just sad that an old guy like myself could get out there and actually compete. It's a darn shame it doesn't. It's not a good mark for 50. Back in my day, and probably back in your guys' day, to think of a guy that's 50 years old and he's a light heavyweight champion of the world was just wasn't even thought of. Shoot, if you're 30 years old, you were old.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a champion, but the quality of fighter has fallen off so much that older guys back in our days can compete at a world-class level. Crazy. Just crazy.
Well, talk about the state of boxing in general. You mentioned, that would be unheard of back in the day. Well, in this day and age, a lot of people may be gravitating towards MMA, and I know you know something about that game as well, but what do you think about the state of boxing today? Obviously, Floyd Mayweather has retired. Floyd Mayweather-Pacquiao didn't maybe deliver like a lot of people thought it would. Aside from that, there are not a lot of top contenders. And what do you think about the state of the game, and how does it get back to the way it was before?
Well, I mean, first of all, I trained some amateurs and stuff, and I was at the Olympic qualifier and stuff like that. But we have a guy that is a Irish coach that's going to be training our Olympic boxers, and I was a little disappointed in that because out of 280 million people in this country, you can't find 2 trainers to train our Olympic boxing team. We got to go over to Ireland and pick one of their guys to train our Olympic boxing team, male and female.
That is bizarre. That says a lot too, I think.
No other country would do that.
Well, that's
no other country would.
That's a shame. That is a shame because growing up, I appreciate what mixed martial arts is. I think it's hugely popular. Everyone knows who Ronda Rousey is. John Bones Jones are some great fighters. That's what a lot of people grow up now. But in my era, you grew up. Even if you couldn't do it, actually, like you said, you grew up wanting to be a Golden Gloves boxer. Well, so did we. People like Noah and I, we just couldn't do it. So, but you still grew up. You grew up with that era. I grew up with Mike Tyson. You grew up with Mike Tyson's Punch Out on the video game, and you grew up with people like you, Virgil. And I tell you, maybe it's just a disassociation people have now. Also, get into the fact that you have a son.
I'm happy with the fact that finally mixed martial arts has an outlet. Before they didn't. The furthest you could go is in judo or taekwondo in the Olympics and stuff like that. Then after that, it just kind of fell off. And that's great. But, they talk about, boxing, this and that. Well, you saw exactly what happened. If it's stand up, look at what happened to Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
she fought a gal that was a counter puncher, southpaw, that could fight going back.
Yes.
And all she did was eat shots.
She did. She definitely did that.
The girl was an accomplished boxer.
Yeah.
She had over 30 fights.
Yep.
And a world champion.
Yeah.
So anybody that has a question on that, just watch that fight.
No question about it. And, you're still very much involved in the game. You're still very much, your wife, with you and your wife, Carla, I believe, still, have a boxing promotion, and you've promoted fights, and your son is an up-and-comer. Like, to tell us a little bit about that.
Deneen is the promoter of my Quicksilver Hill, Deneen Hill.
Yes.
And that's the son, that's the mother of Virgil.
Sure.
Yeah, that's our promotion, yeah. It's fantastic. My son played baseball for the Cardinals and stuff, and he said one day he came home, and the Cardinals released him, and he said, "Dad, I want to box." And I said, "Son, if you can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, you don't box, you play baseball." So he didn't love it anymore, and off we went. So he's 6-0 as a pro, and doing very well. We've been promoting fights throughout the state of North Dakota. We're looking to branch out to California. We're looking to come to Missouri as well.
All right.
Most of my family live in Missouri, in Joplin, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we're looking to come out that way as well and just branch out and do some things.
Well, that'd be wonderful. If you ever do that, definitely hit us up. We'd be glad to help you promote that in this area, because we love to do.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Clint here has offered up his services to be a sparring partner for your son. So.
Shoot, I can't even be a sparring partner for him.
Oh,
Shoot.
great.
Faster than I am, and hits harder.
That's not a good sign.
Best of luck, Clint. Best of luck.
That's not a good sign for me, then. Well, Virgil, I'll tell you what, definitely would love to keep in touch with you. We got you on social media there, and we'll have this interview up. And I tell you what, it's just been a huge pleasure for me, because, again, and I, didn't do a very good job of explaining it before, but as a kid, just growing up, it was you were a huge, hero for people in Clinton that is like me, that love boxing, that loved, the sweet science. You capturing that light heavyweight championship from Leslie Stewart, it still stands out in my mind as a young kid, as a memory that I have, and would love to stay in touch. Let's if you ever do come out this way, we would love to help you. We'd love to do anything we can to get those fights up and going, my man. That'd be wonderful.
Well, I really appreciate you so much, and thank you. I think it's going to be the grassroots, to bring boxing back. Might not be able to get back to where it was, but we can do it. I think we can do a better job.
Well, I hope so. And Virgil, I tell you what, it's just been such a pleasure. Definitely stay in touch. We'd be glad to reach out to us anytime you have something coming up, man. We've got a lot of promotional tools. We'd be glad to help you out, man. So please just take her easy. Tell Virgil to keep fighting, keep the eye of the tiger, and we'll see him soon. We'll see you guys soon. Let's do something if you guys ever come to Missouri, for sure.
Thank you so much. God bless, guys.
You bet, Virgil.
You.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
And a big thanks to Virgil Hill for joining us. Just such a great time to be able to catch up with him, talk about what he's up to now, how he's still in the game. He's got a son out there. Sounds like a great athlete. Really look for good things from him, and going over all the wars he had in the ring, and a great career. Really was.
Yeah, Hearns, Roy Jones Jr., fighting when he was 50, the state of boxing today and where it can go from here. I mean, it was great to catch up with Virgil.
Yeah, it sure was. And as we move away from that, we still have some football to be played this weekend. We mentioned the AFC Championship game. We kind of both are gravitating towards New England on that one. I'll be in Vegas this weekend to place my smart money on these championship games. And if you want the best, you want the smart money, it stays in place with the $1 Million Man, Clint Switzer. You can call me at 816-7. Okay, sorry, I'm just kidding. Don't really call me.
I thought you were giving out your number there.
No. Don't call me for betting advice either. That's a horrible idea for you and everyone else. And if you want to live under the Paseo Bridge, call that phone number that I was on the verge of.
I think I dated a girl that lived under the Paseo Bridge at one point. That's a story for another time. But we move on to the NFC Championship game. Panthers, Cardinals, Cam Newton most likely he has to be NFL MVP versus Carson Palmer, who tried to give the game away to the Packers last week with interceptions that were dropped by the Packers, and they come out with it. Aaron Rodgers has that Hail Mary at the end of the game since it's overtime. Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald 3 or 4 times in a row, touchdown, game over.
Palmer made some bad decisions in this game.
He did.
A drive that they could have put the game away. Palmer throws a bad pass to the end zone and gets picked off. He's been really good this year at pushing the ball downfield. Larry Fitzgerald's been key. You got Michael Floyd.
John Brown, the speedster out of Pittsburgh State.
Absolutely, and I love that vertical passing attack. But the way the Panthers are playing now, you take away that second half against Seattle, you can't take it away. They gave up 24 unanswered. I like the way the Panthers built that lead, though, to get to 31-0 against that defense. Cam Newton's playing all world, doesn't have the best weapons around him, and he picked those guys up. You got Jonathan Stewart running the ball pretty well, but Cam Newton is the key to that thing. And I think it's going to be just enough for the Panthers here against a team that a lot of people maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago thought were the best team in the league, which is the Cardinals, but as it's played out, they lost that game to Seattle, the Cardinals, this is, right before the regular season ended, got obliterated. Not a strong showing against the Packers, although good to get a win against Aaron Rodgers. Can't take that away. I like the Panthers, and I like them by 2 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, Carson Palmer, just something in his head. He struggles in the playoff games, and he's putting too much on himself. He's got a lot of weapons out there. He just needs to distribute the ball, calm down, kind of let the game come to him, let Bruce Arians call just amazing, great offensive plays, great strategist of the game. And they do have a solid defense out there with Patrick Peterson. They do miss Tyrann Mathieu at safety. But I like the Panthers. Josh Norman, Luke Kuechly, Kawan Short at defensive tackle. It could be defensive player of the year for the Carolina Panthers. And Cam Newton on offense. He's got Greg Olsen, Jonathan Stewart, but at receivers, Ted Ginn, Jericho Cotchery, Devin Funchess from Michigan. I mean, they don't have a lot of weapons, but Cam's been an NFL MVP and gotten the most out of those guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been just an unbelievable journey for us here this month. On the road to Houston, on the road, covering the Chiefs in New England, a place I never thought I would ever see a game from, Gillette Stadium. It was an unreal experience.
It really was, seeing Tom Brady out there in Gillette. I mean, AFC champion or AFC divisional playoff game, rights to go to the AFC championship game on the line. Bill Belichick. I mean, it was great. Even though we lost, it was great to see Tom Brady out there, be in that atmosphere, that stadium with those fans who really, I mean, They have it all. They have it all with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and maybe someday we will have that.
Maybe so. And I tell you, for us personally, to be able to go and do that, to be able to live this way, to be able to cover these teams, to cover the Kansas City Chiefs specifically, it is a surreal feeling at times. It is something that I can't describe to a lot of you out there because we put a lot of things on the back burner for this show, to run our website, Great American Sports Network, the way we want to do it, to live the way we want to live, which is to embrace every moment, to see the world, to see every opposing stadium we can, to get out there and to cover these teams and all these different elements. We've been to Georgia, covering Mizzou, Georgia this year. We've been on the road to these playoff games. It's been something that I can't describe, and it's something that leads me to believe that, guys, life doesn't always have to go the way that society tells you to. I think that's what I've learned throughout all this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if we lived life like society told us to, we'd be in cubicles somewhere, front desk clerks, or, I mean...
unloading cargo from the back of a Jeep, a couple kids, a wife. Maybe she likes you, maybe she doesn't. She probably is cheating on you.
Yeah, I mean, just great things out there for us, but I mean, we choose this path. I mean, this is the path we want, and we're going to make it happen. And it's great experiences so far, and we're just going to keep it going. We
not only do it for ourselves, but we do it for you guys, the listeners, and we can't thank you enough for joining us last week during our live broadcast, joining us all through the year, all of our podcasts, all of our shows. Guys, we got big things coming up. We have our documentary, Stadium Crashers, getting ready to come out here this spring/summer. Hopefully, we've had some few problems.
Setbacks here
technical thing with our equipment.
Technical jargon. We won't get into it. Some of you may not understand.
Yeah. Aside from that, we're just coming up with big things. We have our video show, the Outsider Sports Show, that's going to be on video on YouTube, and that is getting ramped up. We're revamping that show to make it more fan friendly, and that's going to be coming up. We always have the podcast here, Outsider Sports Show podcast. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Check out our website, GreatAmericanSportsNetwork.com. Subscribe, share, all the stuff that people try to tell you to do in YouTube videos and online. Just do it. Do it all. Click, like. I don't know what else there is.
Subscribe.
Yes. Buttons, all of it. Thank you, guys. Hey, next week, be sure to join us. We'll be talking about Super Bowl 50 And we will certainly be wheeling out a very special guest for that occasion, because that's what we do here at the Outsider Sports Show. For Clint Switzer, Noah Gronniger, enjoy the games this weekend and prepare yourselves for Super Bowl 50.